What is going on, guys? Snow-covered Planeswalker here, coming to y'all with another Commander deck tech. This one is on Noyan Dar, Roil Shaper. I built Noyan Dar after I scrapped my Narset Enlightened Master deck. Another video of that wasn't posted here. Expect that in the next few months on CMDR decks. I submitted it to them, and I think it's going to get posted over there. Hopefully, anyway, so I no longer have the video footage of it to upload here. But I had a bunch of blue-white stuff, and I had no idea what to do with it, so I said, you know what, let's build Noyan Dar. It should be a fun deck. And, you know, it was for a while, until it got boring. It's kind of like a blue-white version of Talrand, and that's why after this video I'm going to be scrapping the deck, so that I can take the blue parts of it for Arjun, which I'm building now, and I'll do something with the white parts. I'll find something to do with those cards. But, let's see here, let's go ahead and lower this down just a little bit, and I can talk about the deck and the commander. So, Noyan Dar Roil Shaper is 3 a white and a blue for a 4/4 legendary creature merfolk ally. Let's go ahead and straighten up my camera. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may put 3 1/1 counters on target land you control. If you do, that land becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste that is still a land. Now, one important thing to note about the ability is it does not say target non-creature land you control. So if you have a land that's already a 3/3 or, you know, whatever, you can continue to stack counters on that land. So you don't have to open yourself up to, you know, major blowout from a board wipe. In case you don't have your land protection, you could simply just stack a bunch of counters on one land. And what I usually tended to do with this deck, unless I was going in to finish the game, I would get about 3 or 4 land creatures at one point in time and just keep stacking them, and generally making the worst land the strongest, so that they had to use their spot removal on my worst mana producing land, usually a basic island or plains. So this deck just is, again, a blue-white version of Talrand. You love casting instant sorceries, you love counterspells, you love cantrips, and yeah, if you like being the scumbag control player, this is your deck. Let's go into the mana base. Oops, get this all angled up. By the way, I'm recording this Christmas Eve, and hopefully we'll be uploading it by Christmas, so Merry Christmas, everyone. Land, we have Flooded Strand, as well as Polluted Delta, Scalding Tarn, and Misty Rainforest, so we can go find our dual lands, or just a basic island. For our duels, we have Prairie Stream, Hollowed Fountain, and Tundra. We also run Azurius Chancery. The bounce land can be used to save a creature if we feel like our opponent's fixing to have a board wipe, or if we know they have a board wipe. We can use this to bounce one of our better lands to become a creature. It's also just a great way to ramp our mana up in our colors, which we don't have a lot of. Celestial Colonnade. I know that we can already turn land into creatures, so this is not the best land in the deck. However, it was just so on flavor that I wanted to have it. Sajiri Refuge was just a life gain land I threw in. I don't really know why. Temple of Enlightenment for the scry. Calciform Pools. The storage lands are actually a favorite of mine. Seachrome Coast is good in the early game. Late game is just an Azurius Guildgate. A couple of filter lands. We have Mystic Gate and Skycloud Expanse. The filters are just kind of cool, and I enjoyed being able to use them effectively as additional signets. Attica Wastes is our Pain land. Glacial Fortress for our Buddy land. Again, nothing really exciting with the mana base. There rarely is. Nimbus Maze is one of my personal favorites for blue-white because it almost always fixes you. It can give you a colorless mana if you don't have, you know, just by itself. It can also add a white to your mana pool if you have an island, and a blue if you have a plains. So if you only have one of your basic land types, and you have this, you fix your mana with it, which I'm a big fan of. Reflecting Pool, just a great card for Commander. Just adding 1 mana of any color or land you control could produce. Staple in most decks, I feel. Mana Confluence and City of Brass, just basically additional pain lands. Command Tower, because we're playing Commander and there's no downside to it. Temple of the False God, again for ramp, and because it's a Commander staple. Reliquary Tower, so we can have no maximum hand size. Ancient Tomb for additional ramp. And Darksteel Citadel, because it's a perfect target for the 1/1 counters. Then we have, I believe, how many islands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 islands. I think we have 4 plains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So 8 islands and 4 plains. Into the mana rocks. Again, nothing super exciting yet. We have Soul Ring, Azurius Signet, Felwar Stone, and Coalition Relic. These all get the job done pretty well. They just give us additional mana. For creatures in the deck, we only have 5 additional creatures. Abzan Falconer gives all of our land creatures flying because they have a 1/1 counter on them. It can also outlast itself, so that it can become a 3/4 flyer, which isn't terrible. Halimar Tidecaller also gives our land creatures flying, and whenever it comes into play, we can return a card with Awaken from our graveyard to our hand. So we can use this to get back one of our board wipes or our counterspell. So it's just an additional little bonus, but it has been useful enough. Monastery Mentor get as much value out of casting non-creature spells as you can, which this deck likes to do a lot of. And Talrand for very much the same reason. As well as Solemn Simulacrum, because we're playing Commander and it finds a land and it draws a card and it's Commander. Tutors, we have Mystical Tutor and Personal Tutor to go and find an instant or sorcery, or just a sorcery, depending on which card you use. Personal Tutor is pretty good at setting up a miracle card. I also use Merchant Scroll as a way to find a blue instant. Usually use this to find a Cyclonic Rift or a counterspell of some sort. 1 second, let me get a drink. But you can also use it to just grab whatever is useful in the situation. Cantrips, we have Gitaxian Probe, Brainstorm. Visions of Beyond isn't really a cantrip, it's just a card draw spell. Preordain, Serum Visions, Sleight of Hand, Ponder. Teferi's Response, because it's actually really good in this deck. Counter target spell or ability an opponent controls that targets a land you control. If a permanent's ability is activated this way, or countered this way, destroy that permanent and draw 2 cards. And it costs 1 and a blue for an instant. Pretty strong in Noyan Dar. Time Twister, because we need to recycle that graveyard. Dig Through Time, just a very powerful card. We can just step away a bunch of spells that we don't care about in our graveyard, which it will be full. Go find some great cards that we need. Yeah. Isochron Scepter is in here just because I can use it on a Mystical Tutor or on a counterspell of some sort or a cantrip or whatever, and it allows us to seriously abuse that card. Into the counter magic, we have a variety of counterspells. I think there's close to 15 in here. So, Swan Song, Muddle the Mixture, which also serves as a tutor for a 2-drop. Memory Lapse, one of my personal favorites, because sometimes putting it back in their hand is just so much worse, and putting it into their graveyard can be so much worse because a lot of decks can just get them back immediately. So being able to effectively make them lose a draw is pretty sweet. Counterspell, just good old-fashioned counterspell. Mana Drain, strictly better than counterspell. Hinder, tuck it into their library so that way they can't recur it. Spell Crumple, more of the same. Forbid is a counterspell that we can buy back by discarding 2 cards. Can't argue with that. Scout of the Winds is a counterspell that we can use Awaken with, as well as get back with the Tidecaller. Rewind is a counterspell that's free, and in this deck can untap our creatures. Ojutai's Command is just a great modal counterspell that can also do other things, such as drawing a card or gaining some life, or we can even use it to bring back something like... actually, I don't think it can bring back any of our creatures in this deck, but it can gain us life, counter a creature, or draw us a card. Cryptic Command, we're playing a counterspell deck, a blue deck, so we need Cryptic Command. Let's go ahead and angle this up. Mystic Confluence, the new budget Cryptic Command. And Force of Will, because it's a 0 mana counterspell. So how many counters was that? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So not quite 15 counterspells in the deck. You can add more, add less, depending on what your play style is. Removal, we have Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, Snap, because it's a free bounce that also turns a land into a creature. Reality Shift, one of my personal favorites. I think this card is highly underrated. Blue has a hard time removing, and Reality Shift can do that, as well as seriously screwing up their draw. I can't tell you how many times I've used this to hit somebody's Cabal Coffers, Urborg, Gaia's Cradle, Planeswalker of whatever form, Powerful Enchantment, Mana Rock, whatever. It can seriously mess up someone's day. Polymorphous Jest, turn all their dudes into frogs, block them, kill them off, effectively a board wipe. Into the serious board wipes, we have Oblivion Stone and Perilous Vault. I specifically don't run Nevin Earl's Disc because it can blow up our land creatures. These say non-land permanents, so these are just strictly better for us. Planar Outburst destroys all non-land creatures. It also has Awaken. That's an ideal board wipe for us, and Planar Cleansing can just hit all non-land permanents. Cyclonic Rift, I'd say one of the best mass bounce spells, probably our best mass bounce spell, because it's just so easy to pay for and just blows everyone out, usually a game ender. Displacement Wave, it can bounce all non-land permanents with mana cost of X or less with their owner's hand. This never hits the majority of our creatures. Devastation Tide, we can find it with Personal Tutor, set it on top, Miracle it, just bounce all non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Then we have some miscellaneous protections cards. We have Equinox. Whoops. We have Equinox. Basically, you enchant a land and tap that land to counter the counter spell that destroys one or more lands you control. So if someone plays Armageddon and you have a land enchanted with this that's untapped, you can just tap it and counter that spell. Pretty strong. You can also stop any individual land destruction. Not bad at all. Sacred Ground, whenever a spell or ability an opponent controls causes a land to be put into the graveyard from play, return that land to play. Our land will come back as regular lands, not as creatures, but at least we're not getting blown out on mana. Terra Eternal makes all land indestructible. Not bad at all. It does make our opponent's land indestructible, but if you may have noticed, we don't do any land destruction in this particular deck, just because it's not what we really care about, and it would kind of suck to have a strip mine in hand when Terra Eternal is in play. Rhystic Study, just mass card draw. Nothing more to it than that. Propaganda, as well as Ghostly Prison. Whoops. These cards just lock our opponents off of swinging on us with a major army of creatures, which I'm a big fan of. Inexorable Tide, whenever we cast a spell, proliferate. So for each spell we cast, our elemental creatures get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This would also probably be pretty sweet in like a Mizzix deck. So anyone out there playing the experienced counter commanders with blue, Mizzix or Azuri, you might like this card. Lightning Greaves, we're into the protection section now. Lightning Greaves gives haste and shroud, just a staple. Champion's Helm gives 2/2 and hexproof to the equipped legendary creature. And Darksteel Plate makes the equipped creature indestructible. So yeah, that is my Noyan Dar Roil Shaper deck. The deck list will be in the description. Really, it was a great deck. It was a very fun deck, but to me, the idea of just mass counterspells, mass board wipe, it gets very boring to me, and it gets very boring to my play group. Like, a lot of them have expressed disdain for this deck. They really just don't like it because they can't have fun playing against it. So I will be scrapping it for that reason and for the fact that I'm simply not enjoying it anymore. But if your personality is that scumbag blue control player who loves countering everything and wiping the board a million times, and your group doesn't mind it, Noyan is such a fun commander. It's so easy to build. You can build it really, really cheap. This deck would be almost nothing if we cut the Mana Drain, the Force of Will, the Tundra, the Fetches, and a couple of other minor cards, maybe Cryptic Command, it could be cut. There are so many ways to build Noyan Dar on the cheap. I'm positive you could build a great list for under 200 bucks and just have a blast with it. Out of all the Battle for Zendikar commanders, I really think that Noyan Dar and Omnath are just the best and most fun commanders out of the entire set. So if you haven't tried it, I do recommend playing with it. It is a lot of fun. I will miss the deck. The deck will be forever archived on my TapThat account under the Dead Decks section. So I'm just going to post the link to that in the description down below. You can check it, and it will always be there. But yeah, that is my Noyan Dar deck. I may do some Cockatrice gameplay with this list, even after I scrap it, just so I can get some gameplay footage out there. But until next time, I'm signing out. Peace, and take care.